Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Let me begin by saying this clearly. We support efficiency, we support modernization, we support using technology to make life easier for British Columbians. In fact, on this side of the House, we have consistently called for the government service to be faster, to be smarter, and to be more accessible. We want less red tape. We want fewer lineups. We want people to spend less time waiting and more time living with their lives. So in principle, we support the intention of modernization. But intent alone is not enough, because what British Columbians have experienced over the past several years is not efficiency, it is backlog, it is delay, it is reactive policy making. So let us take one example that is directly related to the driver licensing system, and I think the member just before me actually used the same example as well. But on the other hand, we feel like the government removed the second road test under the graduated licensing program. The stated reason was to reduce backlog and wait times. Instead of fixing the system, instead of hiring more examiners, instead of making tests more efficient, the government eliminated the safeguard. So rather than strengthening the capacity, they just lowered the bar. That's not modernization. That is managing backlog by cutting requirements. So when we see another bill that claims to streamline and digitize processes, we must ask, are we truly improving the service, or are we simply adjusting rules to accommodate administrative limitations? We love efficiency. We have always advocated for technology to make government service more seamless. But efficiency without security can be dangerous. That brings me to a serious concern that I do not see adequately addressed in the legislation: identity theft. As government services move online, as more documents are submitted electronically, as more processes rely on digital verification, we must ask, what safeguards are in place to ensure that the person submitting the information is actually who they claim to be? What specific identification verification methods or mechanism will be required? What authentication standards are being used? Will there be multi-factor authentication? What fraud detection tools are being implemented? What audit trails will exist? Who is monitoring suspicious activities in real time? Because modernization without robust identity protection will expose British Columbians to significant risk. And we do not have to look far for examples for vulnerability. Several major data breaches have affected British Columbia ministries over the years, exposing deeply personal information and undermining public confidence. In 2015-16, Ministry of Education lost an encrypted hard drive containing approximately 30 years of student records. And even when technology improved, recently in 24 and 25, Interior Health confirmed the police discovered a document containing personal information, including social insurance numbers, addresses for approximately 20,000 people. SIN numbers, names, and addresses. When social insurance numbers are exposed, the consequence can last for decades. Credit can be destroyed, fraud can follow someone for years, identity theft can take enormous efforts and costs to repair. In addition to these breaches, in 2024, the Freedom of Information and Privacy Association report that hackers have accessed the 22 BC government inboxes containing data on 19 employees, including personal information like the employee IDs, job details, etc. This incident underscores that even internal government accounts are vulnerable to unauthorized access and highlights the very real risk that sensitive data can be exposed through cyber intrusion. If basic government email systems are being targeted successfully, it raises serious questions about the readiness of this government's technology infrastructure to protect the personal information of millions of British Columbians as service moves online. And in 2024, reported by some medias, revealed leaked internal documents from the Ministry of Forests suggesting that the ministry had at times bypassed or sidelined its own science advisory panel in decisions related to old growth logging. According to the reporting, recommendations from independent scientists were not consistently reflected in final decision-making. Recent concerns about transparency, governance, and adherence to establish progress. So when internal safeguards and advisory mechanisms are not fully respected, it undermines public confidence in government oversight. While this incident was not a traditional data breach involving personal information, but it also demonstrates another kind of vulnerability, institutional integrity risk. When internal process can be bypassed, when advisory system can be overridden without full transparency, it raises legitimate question about governance control. These are not isolated incidents. They represent a systematic risk that come with managing large volumes of personal information. So when government proposed to expand digital processes to allow more submissions online, to digitize more identity-linked transactions, we must ask whether the lessons from these breaches have truly been internalized. Have we upgraded the encryption standards? Have we strengthened our internal access control? Have we limited employees' access on a strict needed-to-know basis? Have we conducted penetration tests by independent cybersecurity experts? Have we ensured that any third-party contractors handling data meet the highest security standards? Because British Columbians deserve clear answers. Because identity theft is not theological. It's real. It's growing. And the government database are prime targets. So when we move towards greater digitalization, we must ensure that the verification system are not only convenient, but also resilient. If someone intercepts the mail, as the member of the opposite mentioned, they can get the driver's license by mail. They may obtain a sticker to update a license, and that's concerning enough. But if someone intercepts digital credentials, gain access to an account, or exploit on a weaknesses on identity verification protocols, the consequence can be far more severe. Once data is compromised, it cannot be uncompromised. So modernization without security creates exposure. Public trust is fragile. Once lost, it is difficult to rebuild. British Columbians must have confidence that their driver licensing information, their personal identifiers, and their records are protected with the highest possible standards. But in this bill alone, it did not mention of any of those. So efficiency is important, convenience is important, but security is foundational. So when we debate this legislation, I asked the minister to address these concerns directly. What identity theft protections are built into this bill? What authentication measures will be mandatory? What encryption standards will be applied? How will the government monitor and respond to potential breaches? And will there be independent oversights to ensure that modernization strengthens rather than weakens the integrity of our public system? So let us talk about something very simple, something physical, something that every driver in British Columbia have experienced. When a person changes their address, what happens? They receive a sticker in the mail, a sticker that applies to your driver's license. A sticker can be damaged. A sticker can peel. A sticker that can be duplicated at home. A sticker can be intercepted if the mail is stolen. And this is 2026. And we're still relying on adhesive labels to update our primary identification documents. I recall renting a car outside of Canada. I handed over my driver's license. The rental company looked at it and asked, "What's up with this sticker?" They said, "It looks amateur. Did you just put it on yourself?" I actually felt embarrassed. This is one of the most important identification documents issued by this province, and we update your address with a sticker. That seems minor, but it reflects a broader issues. If we are serious about modernization, it cannot simply be moving the forms online. It must also be strengthening integrity, security, and public confidence. When a sticker can be easily damaged or misused, what about digital submissions? What about scanned documents? What about remote verification? Has this government actually conducted a comprehensive risk assessment on identity fraud under this new framework and this legislation? Have they consulted cybersecurity experts? Have they modeled worst-case scenarios? What happens if somebody intercepts the mail? What happens if somebody impersonates other individuals online? What happens if the database is breached? All these questions are not answered in this legislation. So modernization without protection creates vulnerability. I do not see it in this bill clearly strong provisions that address identity theft prevention, digital authentication standards, or enforcement mechanism. None. We must also look into and consider the consequence. If someone's identity is stolen and used it to alter the records, who bear the responsibilities? If a fraudulent submission led to a license being issued or modified improperly, what recourse does the victim have? These are not hypothetical concerns. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crime in North America, and government databases are high-value targets. When we speak about efficiency, let us remember that efficiency cannot come at an expense of trust. Public trust in government symbols is fundamental. If British Columbians do not believe that their information is secure, if they fear that their identity can be compromised or impersonalized by others, then no amount of administrative streamlining will restore confidence. So, Honourable Speaker, I want to raise a specific concerns about the language in the bill that state, and I quote, must deal with their previous driver's license or any duplicate of it as directed by the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. I asked the Minister, what does deal with actually mean? Does it mean surrender it? Does it mean cut it? Does it mean damage it? Or does it mean discard it in your garbage can? It's not a membership card. This is the most important piece of identification that many British Columbians carry in their wallet. It is used for banking, for travel, for employment verification, age verification, and countless identity-related transactions. So if a person is instructed simply to dispose it, how do we safeguard against misuse? What prevents someone from keeping an old license and use it improperly? What prevents it from being retrieved from household garbage? What safeguards ensure it is securely destroyed? If duplicates exist, how is ICBC tracking and invalidating them? If duplicate exists, is there a centralized deactivation process? Is there a real-time database update to prevent fraud? I want to draw you into some examples in other jurisdictions. In other jurisdictions, when you have to reapply for update or to get a new or updated driver's license or ID card, the driver must actually appear in front of the clerk at least once, either when you submit your documents or when you receive the document, which is the ID card. But in our jurisdiction, according to this bill, you do neither. You submit it online, nobody knows that it's actually you, and you receive your card in the mail. So when we talk about modernization, identity protection must be precise. Language like what I mentioned, deal with it, is very vague. And vague language in identity legislation creates risk. So I would like to ask the Minister to clarify what exactly is required of applicants, what specific destruction or surrender protocols are mandated, and how does ICBC ensure that cancelled or replaced licenses cannot be misused? Because this is not an ordinary card. It is a fundamental, very important identifier document. And British Columbians deserve clarity and security, not ambiguity. We must ensure that this bill is not another example of solving administrative challenge by weakening safeguard. As we mentioned, we want to streamline it, we want less red tape, we want more efficiency. At the same time, we need security. So we must ensure that this bill is not an example of weakening safeguard. We should be asking, are we investing in proper verification systems when somebody actually submits documents online? Can we actually verify that person is that person? Are we building a modern digital identity framework that is secure and scripted and resilient? Are we ensuring that the modernization strengthens integrity rather than weakening it? We support technology, as we mentioned. We support making service faster. We support reducing backlog, but we do not support cutting corners. Because British Columbians deserve a system that is both efficient and secure. They deserve modernization that protects them from fraud. And they deserve identification documents that are doable, professional, and credible, not like the stickers example that I just mentioned. And they deserve a government that anticipates risk instead of reacting after problems emerges. So as we review this legislation, I urge the Minister to address these concerns directly. What specific identity theft protections are embedded in this bill? What authentication standards will be used? How will the government ensure that every submission truly comes from the individual that it claims to represent? And will the Minister commit to reviewing outdated practices, including physical identification updates, to ensure BC system reflect the modern standards of professionalism and security? We want efficiency. We welcome modernization. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.